Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday, August 4th. The year is 2022. My name is Robert Segers, one of the product managers at Sierra Interactive, joined as always by my esteemed and elegant co-host, Buddy Blake, who leads a Team Ridge in Wilmington, North Carolina. You can find his Sierra site at buddyblake.com. And today it is time for another mastermind session, or sesh, as the kids say, back in 2004 or so. We are going to be talking about a few different things with a special guest, Colton Whitney. We are going to be talking about sending out agents into production, leadership. We're going to be talking about strategies that are working for lead conversion in this shifting market, which, as we've gone on, over practically ad nauseum at this point, Buddy, the market has shifted. It is shifting and will continue to shift. So no need to spin it. It's just a matter of how can you adapt to be able to thrive through it. And the thriving might look a little bit different in the interim than it will in the future. But you can be doing some things right now. So first, let's go around and say where each of us are right now. And I'll go first. I'm on a back deck in Central Oregon, a little area called Sun River, and it is beautiful here. Buddy, where are you?
I am in Wilmington, North Carolina, right on the ocean. Well, not literally. And it is hot and humid here.
How about you,
That's really unfortunate. Yeah, we are in miserable, weathered, really terrible Orange County, California, where it's a nice 76 sunny day. So we're struggling.
Yeah. So tell me, in Orange County, are there a lot of bullhorns? I see in the background there. You're in your office, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, I'm just me. I'm a hillbilly that they transplanted here into Orange County. So I grew up on a ranch and did mutton busting, where you rode sheep as a kid, and rodeos. We did that whole thing. So
yeah, mutton busting. I don't know that I've heard that phrase before, but I'm going to use it again.
I feel like I heard it on Yellowstone.
I'm gonna
guaranteed you did. Yeah. The first thing my parents put me in a Clark County fair, I just remember being like, why am I on this sheep? And then I heard, oh,
yeah. And then you turned 24, and it was time to stop. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, good. Colton, tell us about yourself. I mean, people hear from Buddy and me, we talk all the time, but like, first time you've been on our mastermind session. So kind of, when did you get into real estate? What do you do now? You work with, how many agents on your team? What's just your numbers? Anything you want to share?
So from Las Vegas, a little podunk town right outside of Vegas. If I said it, you wouldn't know where on the map it is. So I say Las Vegas. I became a dad when I was 16 years old. Real estate was not a passion of mine. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh my gosh, this sounds like a really great career. It just wasn't something I wanted to do. But being a really young parent, I wanted to be an attorney. That went out the window because my parents couldn't afford to send me to school, and I needed to hurry up and make some money. So fortunately, my dad's best friend was a legend in real estate. And I've always admired the guy for what he did. I always respected him for the type of business that he ran and who he was as a person. And I ended up joining him when I was 18. Started out there in Las Vegas. We did well. We got into it in 2008, which you keep hearing 2008 brought up in this comparison. And while I don't think we're even close to that, and we're not even close to that, you see a lot of the same fears and a lot of the same conversations. And I was just a young, dumb kid that didn't know any better. So I was able to see that market through a lens of opportunity, as opposed to what everybody else was looking through, which was the lens of fear. And so everybody was kind of like, good luck, kid. This business sucks. It's horrible. I was watching cars get repossessed. I was watching, like, literally every single day, seeing a Mercedes getting pulled out of the brokerage parking lot from people not paying their bills. So we got really heavy into short sales. And the reason that I wanted to do short sales was my first sale that I ever did was a $36,000 condo. And we had a $1,000 short sale negotiator fee on it. And we had to pay this guy. So when I got my first check on my first deal, I ended up owing money. I didn't get a commission. I owed money because there wasn't enough of a commission. So anyway, really got involved in short sales. The year that I decided to leave Las Vegas and expand here to Orange County, we did about 412 short sales. So there was a ton of opportunity out there in Las Vegas, but I hated the heat. I hated Las Vegas. We used to come here to Orange County to visit for vacation all the time. And I was young and dumb and didn't want my daughter growing up in Vegas, and said, well, if I'm going to start over, now's the time to do it. So moved out here to Orange County and been here ever since. Team size. We went through a little bit of a rough spell there. Had a business partner. The original deal was we were going to kind of do our thing together there. I'd come to Orange County. He'd find somebody to run Las Vegas and move here and help me expand. Never happened. Had that conversation, went into a 3-year lawsuit with he and I, unfortunately, to dissolve the business. Bankrupted me. I'll never forget the first time I got my attorney bill. It was like $22,000. I was like, is this for the whole process, or like, no, gosh. Oh, dude, it was the worst experience I ever went through. So bankrupted me, came out of it and was like, hey, we need to put the throttles down. And that's where we have a mutual friend, Eric Hatch, Mike Novak. I was like, I really need to surround myself with people who I respect, admire, run businesses like what I want to build. And did that, started emulating really smart people. And we've grown our business by 100% every year for the last 3 years. Last year we did 75 million. This year we're on track to do, some will probably land around 200.
Yeah. Colton, that's really interesting. So a couple things there that I heard, a lot of adversity. And I feel like that story, you're kind of thrown into it in the midst of like a difficult situation. I feel like I hear those stories somewhat frequently or see them within the real estate industry. And I will say that too. In this industry, what we're doing right here, right, buddy? In this industry and in life in general, surrounding yourself with really great people is just so important. Making sure that there are people around you that you can not measure yourself up against, like it's some kind of, against thing, but like you're spurring each other on in a really good and positive way. And so you've been able to find that.
I've always considered myself really lucky, just because I've been surrounded by people who genuinely took ownership of my successes or failures. The very first mentor that I got involved with in the business, he was like a dad to me, and he showed me the ropes and he treated me like a son. He told me when I was an idiot. He told me when I was screwing up. He was a New Yorker, Italian guy. So he certainly was not scared to tell you when he thought you were making mistakes. And it's like that type of accountability and that type of candor and that type of guidance shortened my path to what we've been able to do. And it's like, we're not inventing it. We as agents like to think we're launching rockets, and we're just not. I'm a used house salesman. It's really not difficult. It's not rocket science. It's not easy. But we're just not doing anything that difficult. We're not inventing anything new. And it's funny because when the market starts to shift the way that it has, the reason my old mentor and I blended so well together, he was old school. Everything he did was old school. And I brought kind of the newer tech side into it. He had a notepad on his desk with the blue pen, and he'd write stuff down, put it in his credenza behind the desk. And then 6 years later, you could bring up a lead, and that guy would literally go back into the credenza, pull out the notebook, open up to the page in the lead. And that's how he filed things. Yeah. It's like, okay, we got to change that. We can't we're not going to be able to do it. So we brought the tech side to it. But it's like the one thing he passed, and unfortunately is no longer with him, but I still feel his presence every day, because when things go south and when life gets difficult again, everybody abandons all the new tech. Everybody abandons the new school, and we just get back to the basics of the stuff that we know works. And it's always those old school methods and the old school tactics. And I was just fortunate to have those type of people, and people who are willing to share and collaborate and show us what they do that works, help us avoid the mistakes that didn't. And it's the only reason we've been able to grow.
Buddy, what's an old school tactic that you're getting back to right now?
Well, it's the same thing. It's just sales 101. Number one is prospecting, talking to people on the phone, doing everything you can to get in front of them, stay on top of mind, note cards. In today's world, video. We're instead of using technology. What happened to everybody?
I made you solo. I gave you center stage.
I
Yeah,
didn't
we're
want
working with tech
I didn't
too.
want that. I was giving it to Colton.
I work for a tech company. Go ahead, buddy.
We're not going to get into that. But I think that, I think that for the last 2 years, we've had to automate most of the process because we just couldn't handle everything. Now, we're trying to use automation to not connect and contact and do the sales work of it, but to help do a better job of identifying which of the tomatoes are ready to be harvested versus relying on the shout bosses and everything else to go out there and try to sell for us. I mean, it's what we're doing, and the agents that are leaning into it are having good success. I mean, we're spending more money on postage now than we are on our dialer and texting with Sierra. Okay.
Yeah.
There's your litmus. If you're not
Right.
postage in our world is when we're not spending postage and I'm not buying business cards and note cards, and I sound like Brian Buffini, I know, but when I'm not doing that, and all I'm doing is spending money on a bunch of automated texts and automated emails, I got a problem, especially when we got to hunt and dig for. I mean, we're looking for good pearls and oysters now. I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's just sales 101. I don't care what industry you put it in.
Right. And that's the thing. It obviously doesn't have to be an either or. There just needs to be an intentionality behind how you use the things that you use, as well as knowing that there's no silver bullet, to kind of copy your statements, buddy. And also to see the various automated tools that you can utilize to surface opportunities for you to extend or build a relationship. I mean, that's really what it comes down to versus taking the place of. We've said it, I don't know, 1,000 times at this point, buddy. You don't want to lean so hard into automated activities, automations, which Sierra, I think, provides some of the best in that regard in terms of the action plans, in terms of the actual automations. But leaning so hard into it that you automate yourself out of a job or that you don't take advantage of the actual relationship building that needs to take place in order to have long-term success within this industry.
Yep.
Yeah. Colton?
Yeah, for us, it's kind of been, like I said, I think I'm one of the few agents that'll say I really don't enjoy real estate. I never have. I love what I'm doing now, and I've got it. I enjoy building, and I enjoy the training, and I love and have found a passion in everything we're doing today. But it's like my passion definitely was not going out and selling houses. And while we were good at it, it's just not what I enjoyed. I'm an introvert. People that know me through work are always shocked by that. But if you ever go to a bar with me or a restaurant, if you put me in a group of strangers, I'm going to sit in a corner and just not talk to anybody. And it makes me wildly uncomfortable. So real estate just constantly forced me to have that discomfort. And
that's a good thing, though. Yeah, it's a good thing, though.
It got to a point where when we decided to build the team and it's like, all right, now we need to make my success 100% dependent upon the success of others. And how do we do that? Like, how do we transfer our ability to do that? How do I transfer my ability to do this to other people? And the real reason for us is like, you actually have to give a shit about these people's successes and failures. And the same way that I had somebody do that, like I'm watching all these people build teams for the sake of building a team. And it's really sad because you have these people join you under all these false pretenses. This is like selling sunset, and it's easy, and you can make a ton of money, and it's the greatest job in the world. And we all know once you get into it, it's a lot harder than that. And it's not, like I said, it's what we do it's really simple. It's just not easy. Like, we know that. And it just takes a lot of discipline and a lot of consistency and the ability to string together 180 days worth of consistent and disciplined effort before you finally get to see the results from it. And it's like, all right, so how do we get people involved? How do we get people indoctrinated? How do we start getting these? And now that the market shifts, how do we take all the people who have been used to this low hanging fruit to where literally it's like fishing with dynamite, to where now all that fish is completely disappeared, and they actually got to get tactical and skillful in our approach. And that's really just been one of our big main focuses during this. It's like, there is destruction by abundance, and I believe that firmly. And I was watching it every day. Look how listing agents were treating buyers agents. They were treating them like they were less than. And if you couldn't get a hold of them and you couldn't get them to answer their phone. And if they did answer the phone, they were screaming at agents saying, check the MLS. It's up. I mean, there was absolutely no skill set. There was no conversation. There was no deal doctoring. There was no doing anything that makes great agents great agents. And then now it shifted, and the e-brake slammed so hard, and it shifted so quickly that all of a sudden our phones are ringing and listing agents are being friendly again. Hey, how you doing? Just wanted to call and see how you're. So we were going through this whole, and it's funny because like now these people have gotten so used to staying fed from the low hanging fruit that these people have forgotten how to climb up higher up in the tree and be able to nurture all that fruit that's climbed all the way to the top. And it's like, if you lost that skill set to climb, and if you lost that skill set to nurture, your automation, like, look, I love automations. I'm a very automated, I think it's great. But one thing that we all need to agree is all automation is shit in comparison to a real tactical practitioner of real estate. And it's fantastic and it's necessary and we need it. But when we get the hand that raises, like, how are we able to connect with somebody and get through the objections? How can we identify the real fears that people have? And like right now, we see all these agents and we see these, and we're listening to it, and we listen to it with our agents, even with all the training that we give them. And you hear how they handle it. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, these interest rates, they're really not bad. If you know the 50-year average, these interest rates are really low. And, it's like, dude, people aren't concerned about the interest rate. People are concerned about affordability, and it's the prices and it's the median income. Like in our market, it went from, which of course means you're not buying a house. Like, I'm not saying people are getting approved for this, but a median household income to buy a average price home here in Orange County would have to contribute 72% of their household income to a mortgage, which they can't. And just before the shift in interest rates, it was 45%. So it's like the market shifted. And if you don't give people the ability to feel that impact and to readjust and recalibrate from that impact, you're not going to have good nurture. You're not going to have good conversion. And we just need to teach people how to have an empathetic conversation that allows you to connect with somebody and earn the privilege of who they use 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now. And it's just a skill set that a lot of agents have lost.
Buddy, what do you think about that? I feel like this is right in your wheelhouse in terms of what's being said.
Well, I mean, I think he's right. I think the last 2 years, I think agents that got in the business in the last 2 years are going to struggle because they never developed. They never had the opportunity to develop the skill sets that it takes to create a relationship, because relationships take time. You can't leverage relationships. You can leverage communication, but not relationships, not bilateral ones. And, and this is my favorite saying. Somebody told me a long time ago when I was doing new home sales, in the good times, agents are the first ones that get their paychecks confused with their skill sets. And that's exactly what's happened over, it's just the way it is. I mean, I'd like to think that I've got some of the best agents they are, and they grew up, they started with us doing prospecting, but, they're struggling now. And we've had, as you well know, I'm working with Andy. We're outsourced our ISA stuff, which I've never been a proponent of outsourcing ISA, but I know there's going to take time to get our agents, even the good ones, back into the habit of, getting on the treadmill, getting in there and doing the work. Here's the deal. The money is in the mundane. Okay. That when you sell something, that is just the celebration of the work that's been done all along. I mean, we get transactions and people like the old home value leads. I'll give you a perfect example. Everybody made fun of those things. We're getting calls and we're getting listings on those that came in 5 years ago because we just simply kept following up with them. When everybody else quit. And it's not, you just got to have conversations. And in this business, if you're doing half the business you were, you need to make 2 or 3 times as many contacts. And if you're not talking to somebody, preferably face to face or at least on the phone, if you're not talking to people, you're not going to sell anything. The days of somebody from no offense, California, calling up and calling us over here, I want to make a $50,000 over asking price on that, and I'm going to Venmo in $50,000 non-refundable deposit. I'll close in 1 week cash without ever seeing it, no inspections. That ship is sailed. Okay, those boats have been burnt. Okay, so we're not going back to that. probably in our lifetime. Now, some cheaper price houses, yes, but for the most part, in our world, that's over. And it's going to take a while. I think the consumers are getting it actually faster this time than the agents are. I mean, I think sellers are panicking to some degree, thinking they missed the top and having some better conversations. But I think there's a lot of agents out there that still think that we're in March and April of this year, and we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colton, I hope you weren't offended by that sick California burn from Buddy there.
Hey, listen, I don't like Californians either.
No, listen, we just, Colton, I'll tell you, it's funny.
I know what you're saying, Buddy.
We're around the ocean in North Carolina.
Oh, I know.
We've had a ton. Our business pipeline has always been retirees from New Jersey, New York, Northeast. We've never had we've never had a lot of the West Coast money coming in. And dude, that is a different kind of mentality out there. They laugh.
It's wild.
They laugh at the prices of our stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. And let me clarify, like I truly do love it here. But it is a different mindset. Like and when I say that, I mean, it is a ridiculously different type of human being. And it's why, like I said, Robert and I have a lot of the same mutual friends. I gravitate towards the Midwest people just because they're just such good, nice, sweet, awesome people. I'm not saying that here, but it's just such a fast paced, it's almost transient. It's why I got out of Vegas. Vegas was so transient. And I figured Orange County wouldn't be. But now you look at, like I said, at median income household, they can't buy anything here. You can't live here. Our gas is more expensive. Our taxes are more expensive.
You can't even rent anything there, probably. Am I right? Even rentals got so high.
You can't. But one of the big, so like and I know because we keep seeing it, it's like these California, like they're selling their homes and they're going into these other areas and they were just exploding these other markets. And of course, you got San Francisco, you got New York, Manhattan. I know they were all doing the same type of thing. So it's like we are seeing a difference in work ethic, and you're seeing a total separation again, which is what I enjoy. Like
this is what we live for, quite honestly. I've been doing a long time. The down markets is when I gain market share. And quite honestly, I make the same or more money. It's just a different way you do business.
We are being very intentional right now and I believe this when I say there's destruction by abundance. We saw it, and it's like and it's not that agents were even being lazy. We were having to do it. Unless you were a buyer that 100% had the funds, had the ability, had the willingness to write ridiculous terms that in my career I've never in a million years thought we'd advise. But we had to in order for them to be competitive. And it got so bad to a point where the average agent here was submitting about 32 offers to get an acceptance. So we had to start tracking everything. What percentage over ask price was getting accepted, what contingencies were in place, how long each of those independent contingencies were. So we could find out, okay, today, what's working for our agents, and then making sure, hey, if you're submitting this contingency with this time frame, it's not getting accepted, so stop submitting it. And then having those conversations with the clients of how we can get over those obstacles and coach them. It's like, look, at the end of the day, if they're not going to be coachable, you can't waste your bandwidth on them, because there's people who do need you and do need your skill set in order to be successful, that while you're over here playing with them, who's never going to be able to buy a home, these people are being represented by somebody who doesn't have the skill set to make them successful in this market. And it's like, now that shifted so quick, I really believe, and we're in no way, like what we build, I tell people on a daily basis, without everybody else telling us what to do, we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't be where we're at. But we're substantially up year over year. And it's because I truly know for a fact that if agents could just hold on to half of the leads that they're failing to convert, that will fuel 100% of your growth.
Sure.
And it's like agents, we can blame the leads and we can blame all the market conditions. There are people today, and I had this conversation yesterday with my agents. If you're going to go look at a flight to go to Ukraine or Taiwan, you know what the headlines are. You know what's going on in the world. You know what a terrifying experience that could end up being. But if you're looking and clicking, I'm buying a flight to Ukraine, you know everything that's going on. It's because you actually have to go to Ukraine. We have noticed a substantial improvement in the quality of leads, PPC, Zillow, Realtor.com.
Interesting.
If you're clicking that I want to see a house today, you know what the headlines are. You know what's happening with the interest rates. You know what's happening with the economy. You know what's happening with inflation. And you're still clicking that I'm interested. So we've seen our life cycle of a lead from acquisition to in contract substantially shrink because these are people who are genuinely interested and they know everything that's going on. So we told our agents right when this shifted, guys, I think this is what's going to happen. We just got to cycle out all those old leads who are clicking just because it was sexy to click and everybody else was doing it. We're back to the needs market, and the needs people are still clicking and still engaging with agents, and they need you now more than ever. But agents
Go ahead, Colton. You call agents starting to what?
They're starting to run away and shy away, and it's like, guys, this is the time to lean in. This is the time that you'll gain traction, and the biggest, best names that you've never heard of are going to be born in this market.
Higher intent leads, but are you seeing that, buddy? I know you're working with Andy Cole and O260 Labs, and I've had some really good success there. But
our Google Local has been fantastic. I mean, it's improved dramatically, and I mean they're ready to go look at houses. But we've had a lot of success using long form now for sellers. You know, running them through in the higher intent. And, you know, I would say by far, most of them say they're going to do something in the next 3 to 4 months. Whereas before it was just like, no, just curious. And, you know, but in the thing, we're step by step going through, and it's a lot more questions. We're not even giving them a value. Okay. We're taking in, as you well know, we're creating a video, screen share video, and doing an actual CMA. Our agents are sending it to them. And they're watching it and watching it and watching it. And I mean, we're getting listing appointments. I mean, we had, I guess for the last 2 years, we used to carry 100, 150 listings. Now we got down to probably 10 to 15 active. Now we're back to probably 25, 30. We're growing again. Now the whole market's not growing at the same pace. So it's telling me that some of the things that we're doing we're doing it different. We're not doing anything original other than we're self-qualifying some of these people. If you're just looking for a Zestimate, you know what? Just go to Zillow. Go. Right? but if you want to tell us the age of your HVAC, the roof age, and if you're willing to give us that information, you have a pretty high intent of doing something, or you wouldn't do that.
So higher intent leads does not mean less work in your mind and with your agents. Higher intent leads means, like you said, Colton, leaning in. And you're doing a lot of custom work, buddy, with these, you know, custom work with agents, with individual leads in their individual situations. And you're having good success with that. And yet that's still making you different in this market.
We're just doing what a real estate agent has done for the last 50 years. We're actually giving them what they're asked for.
Right.
I mean, we just got away from having customers do things when they want to do it to trying to jam them into when we want to do it. Well, you know what? If they ask you something, you need to give them what they want and overgive them, and then stay in touch with them. If they tell you they're not doing something right now, you know what? Say, hey, can I call you back in 30 days? Cut it in half, call them back in 2 weeks. You know, just stay in touch with them because there's an intent there. Like Colton said, when the world is on fire, I mean, the economy is not pretty. There's a whole lot of things that are not pretty in all industries. And if somebody's looking right now, over and over, looking more than once, clicking, asking for requests, calling Google, whatever, there is a level of seriousness there that wasn't back when everybody was just seeing what their neighbor got.
Yeah. We're excited for it, and it's working out better. Like I said, I do know for a fact, like it is definitely getting difficult, and the ability, like the conversations, and we have it because we have a bunch of new agents who we've hired on, and we've got a really experienced agents. We have some of our new agents who just have the ability to implement and execute because they were told what to do. You trained them correctly. You watched them implement it to ensure that it was actually being executed correctly. And then you release them and go do. Now we have some of our newer agents doing better than our seasoned agents because they don't know the old bad habits. They don't know what was. They don't know any better. The same benefit and advantage that I had in 2008 was I didn't know any better. I just knew this was a lot better than digging ditches in 120-degree heat.
But so the beautiful thing too is that gets your older ones, in a lot of cases, gets them re-fired up.
That pressure from the bottom up is by far the most powerful thing.
Yep.
And it's like we don't, because it used to be, and it's like, come on, you guys, you got to do this and that. It's totally ineffective. The most effective thing you can do is bring in the new talent, teach them the right way, get them to implement it, show the success. We did a call night last night, and which is so funny because we've just seen how much things have shifted. And I haven't been able to get one of my OGs into that lead pond. I could write him a check. And so anyway, we made we have tiers in our office. So depending on what your level are, there's certain expectations for each of them. And those bronze agents, if they don't perform at X amount of appointments per week, that means they got to at least make X amount of conversations. And if they don't have the conversations, they at least got to make X amount of calls. So when you're bronze, you don't have the client book to be able to just follow up with your existing people who know you and like you. They got to go into the pond. There was probably $7-8 million worth of appointments set last night from pond leads because they don't want to call. It's like, guys, there's gold in there. And they're like, well, it says here that they were just interested. What had them interested? Like, we got to have these conversations. And it's really like, and I work really closely with Robbie T, and we've really trained the agents how to pivot in the conversation, ask the right questions, be able to connect with them, get all the details that we need, let people be fearful of the market. And that is one thing right now that I see agents doing on a consistent basis, is trying to make, and they whether it's intentional or it's unintentional, making somebody feel stupid for being fearful of this market makes you as the agent an asshole. People have every reason in the world to feel what they feel, whether it's their emotion or it's because somebody told them, their dad, their uncle, whoever it is. You got to let them feel it. And when people are fearful, the worst thing you can do is assume that lead sucks and that lead is now trash or junk. Right. And so we've added one piece to this whole conversation, and we can do a whole webinar just on the conversation and the 5 pivots we're making. And it's like, when they finally say, you know what? Nope, I don't care what the experts say. I don't care what I was looking for. I'm not moving because I'm comfortable where I'm at. And we just added a piece, because usually that would mean, all right, we're junking them, we're turning on automation, and hopefully we get them to raise their hand sometime in the future. And it's one little thing that we've added to our scripting that's helped substantially. Is, buddy, I totally understand that you're fearful of the market. I know there's a lot of dust up in the air. When that dust starts to settle, and if you're more confident in the direction of the market in the next couple of months, would you consider revisiting your home search? And the amount of yeses that we're getting is substantial. So now part of our call night is we tag them scared. And now we have on our call night, we're finding the articles that are the most relevant, not so we can tell somebody, hey, dummy, look what this expert said, you're wrong. It's, hey, buddy, I found this article based on our last conversation. I think this is something that'd be really valuable for you. Make a little deposit. And we just continue to do that week in and week out, not send them properties, not send them the BS drips and all the scripts or the recipes or the football schedule, none of the stuff that's irrelevant to them. They're fearful of the market, and it's our job to give them the information that they need so that they can make an educated and informed decision. And when you tell people and you hang up and you go, buddy, my job's not to try to convince you to buy or sell a home. I simply want to earn the privilege of being who you think of whenever that time comes. And when you can come from a place of sincerity, and you come from a place of actually being able to contribute and add value, and to be able to give them the education that they need so that they can make that informed decision, you will earn their business, and they'll call you as opposed to you having to call them. And it's just, people have forgotten they've forgotten that it's a marathon. And if you run the marathon, you're going to win. Right.
It's really interesting, because what I heard from you, Colton, earlier when you talked about the Midwest, I just want to put this out there. Oregon's my jam, that's where I'm going to be. That's where I want to be. If I was to live in any other state, it would be California. I think it's wonderful. Yeah. National parks, beautiful, love the cities. Okay. Went to college there, really love it. So just joking earlier about the sick burn, but I will what I heard you say, Colton, is that what you're desiring out of the people around you, having grown up in Las Vegas and now living in Orange County, fairly image conscious, different mindset, is you're looking for authenticity, and you're looking for rootedness. And non-transience is a rootedness, right? So you're looking for people who have substance. And I think what's really interesting, and I'm hearing you speak as a person of substance, just to say that, what I'm hearing, and what's so interesting to me as somebody who's a non-realtor but talks to y'all every day, is that kind of the scared tag, you are not seeing them as less than, as unfounded, as stupid, as you said, not a dummy, but you're acknowledging this is where they're at. And what you're doing by helping them reframe potentially through that fear is going to help that person well beyond making a real estate decision, right? Just helping them through like, hey, the world is kind of crazy for a lot of people right now, if not every person. And the worlds for each person, the craziness is different, but we're all going through some different stuff coming out of this, 2+ years of COVID and social isolation. I mean, even just the words physical distance is not how we're made to be. And it's I think we'll see how long some of the effects, not just of the virus, but of just the mental taxation of the last couple of years will play out. But wars, like you said, the things about that people are fearful of, helping them with that, I just will say, is impressive to me, that you're going to help them beyond just, like I said, who are they going to call when they're ready to make a decision? It's going to help them as a person. I think that's really wonderful.
I think it's, and it's, I'm not making up the timing of this, but obviously the content of the story, it'll tie together that it was this morning. I was at the gym. I get there really early, and it's the same group of people. And it's funny because I'm from a town where when you see somebody, you wave at them, you say hi. And at my gym, I'm the same way. I'll wave at somebody who I see. There's all the same couples. So, good morning, how you doing? And so now we're starting to get a little bit more friendly and tapping each other on the back, saying good morning. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm taking a break, and I'm watching up at the TV, and I see China firing missiles and running. And I'm just sitting there staring at the TV, thinking how crazy it is that we are so desensitized now with everything that's been going on, every headline, everything. And I'm just sitting there staring at the TV like, oh my God, what if this is something that happened? Like, what if we went to war with China? Can you even imagine what would happen with these two countries? And I'm not just thinking this in my head. And there's this really nice old gentleman who's always in there. And he looks at me, and as I'm shaking my head, and he goes, scary shit, isn't it? And I looked at him, I go, it's terrifying. And I said, I know they feel the same way. Like anybody who's not them, like we're all looking at this, like this is just crazy. None of us want this. And really sweet old man comes up to me. He goes, man, this stuff's been going on. I goes, how old are you? I talked to him. And he goes, I feel so bad for your generation because you guys are so desensitized just towards giving a shit about people. And he goes, I have faith that people still do. But when you watch that, you think the world doesn't. And it taints, it distorts your vision of what the world is and who we are. And he goes, people still are good. And he tapped me on the shoulder, and he tapped me in the heart, and he says, here, he said, just don't ever forget that. Stop watching that. Just focus on everybody around you and just do the best that you can. And it's like why people don't take that mentality when we're in sales. We're like the salespeople. It's like the relationships that you create in moments like that make you their person forever. To where you don't have to go spend another $10,000 a month in marketing, and you don't have to go do this. You just be more intentional and tactical with the people that we're trying to help. You'll have a better ROI with far less expense, far less overhead, and you'll get that ROI from the compounding interest of people who know you, like you, and trust you. And we see people right now just trying to spend all this money. It's like, like now's the time to just dig deep with the people that you got, and you're going to get 10 times the result that we've ever gotten before. Because there's just so few people out there taking that approach.
Buddy, I know you had in the last few months, kind of a paradigm shift around focusing on the one. Are you still seeing? I mean, that's all. I mean, that's really what you've been doing in this market shift, right? The custom work that you're doing with the individual high intent leads, investing extra time, scaling through the things that can't be scaled, right? Investing more deeply in the non-scalable things is what's making you stand out, and that's giving you some success as well on the other side of the country.
Well, I mean, it is. There's no question about it. I mean, in our world, most of the sellers are, 45, 50 and older. Typically, that's just the demographics we're in. And a lot of that, and one of the things that those folks still, and I am one of those folks, simple thing of sending them a business card, a note card, or in our case, we have the shell mail. It's something relative, whether they're by or out of town. If we think they got a pulse and they might do something at some point, and we don't even put a timeline on it, we're going to do everything we can to get something physically in our hand, because because there's a lot of that generation hold on to things. They keep things. Whereas my daughters don't. My daughter got her first job working at a restaurant, 17 years old. She doesn't even know what a checking account is. I mean, the concept of a business card or something, but these things, it's the simple things. I mean, I am really tempted. I did it years ago and I haven't done. I'm really tempted to go back and get my agents to go back through Brian Buffini's thing just to get that part of what he talks about back in the gear, which is the conversation and the relationships of the people that are in your database. I mean, that's the reason why I'm spending more on Reevaluate now than I am on PPC for buyers.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm saying it's perfect or anything like that, but if I didn't spend one more lead, buy one more lead, I've got enough business for 5 to 10 years if they work properly. I mean, it's just there.
Yeah. Well, you've been in it for, decades, and you've done it well. And so, yeah, when you invest that time and you build actual relationships, when those people come back, they refer other people to you.
But here it is. And I think it sounds like Colton does this, and he's in a model with EXP where he's in the perfect fit to do it. You got to bring these people in, because most agents, as they come in new, they come in and they go through some generic training, blah, 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 blah. They don't have a lot of money. Then they get thrown out there and say, go get them, Tiger. Go call everybody you know, do all this kind of stuff. Go get them. Good luck. I'm right there with you. You got to bring them in to show them how to build a business. But a lot of the reasons people don't do that is because the good ones will leave you may leave you at some point. And you've got to be willing to be vulnerable, because they see that. And I think that is the biggest problem that team leaders make. When I hear a team leader, and you may do this, Colton, I don't mean disrespect, just my personal opinion. And I used to do this because I was taught by a coach way back then. No compete for 2 years, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. When you hear somebody talking about that, penalizing them if they take a lead with them, I mean, the truth of the matter is an agent is not doing any production and I ask them to leave or they decide to leave. I could export 500 leads to them. If they weren't going to do it for me, they're not going to do it for themselves anyway. It doesn't matter. But I think that you have to come from a place of not just helping the customers. I think it starts with, you got to be really wanting to help your agents grow a real business. And the risk is, and the likelihood is, that means that you will get a benefit from that now. But there'll be a day where you may not get as much benefit from it. Okay. Yeah. But we were all there. I don't know your backstory, Colton. I worked at Coldwell Banker. I owned some Remax franchises. Now I'm independent. And, those places were good for me at my time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we all come from different places. But I think that if you don't have your agent's attitude right amongst you, you're never going to get the customer relations right.
What you just hit on is, and I see it shifting and I see people taking a better approach to it, but it's like, I still to this day, the guy who I called dad and who was my mentor, like he truly took ownership of my successes or failures and he took it to heart. And it's like, you see these people starting teams to start teams because it's what people are doing. And they're like, oh, it's going to buy me my time back. And then they have a horrible training process, they have a horrible selection process. They don't care. And it's like, how, because I'm at, like, again, 16-year-old, terrified, thinking my world's over because I had a kid, thinking I'm not going to be able to have any success. I had big ambitions. And it's like, look, I clearly am I wouldn't change it for the world. My daughter, she's just to an age now where she's like my best friend. And it's like, but back then, that's not what I was thinking. That's not where my mindset was at. I'm thinking everything's over. And it's like, I had somebody who, thank God, I found the right person who didn't look at this like, hey, I'm going to throw some shit against the wall and hope that you do all right. It's like, you're joining me. You're going to be successful. This is how you're going to do it, because we only have so much of a runway. Right. And if you mess around and idle long enough, you're going to run out of runway. And God knows what that would have done to my future, or what I'd be doing today if somebody just kind of half-assed my success and somebody half-assed their approach with how good I could be in this business. And it's like, when I see people starting these teams, and again, we've done it wrong a million times, which is why we built something that's now right. But it's like, if you are going to bring somebody on, you better be willing to go step by step. And it's why we truly, like, my success is 100% dependent on their success. So if they're unsuccessful, I'm not successful. So I really do, of course, care that they know how to do this. And it's like, we don't slow down enough on the front end. We put these people through these terrible trainings, and we think we tell them to do it one time and that's how they should do it. And you hear these teams talking about, oh, they're idiots, they don't know how to convert. No, you didn't train them correctly. You're not giving them the skill set. You're not giving them the time that's necessary to go through the repetitions that's going to allow them to do this unconsciously. And that's one of the things, like, you tell them how to do it, and then you make fun of an agent for not being able to get through it. It's like they're having to think about every single word they say. Naturally, it's going to come out terribly.
It's horrible.
So it's like we have to walk them through the process and have an onboarding, have a system, and force the repetitions and have the accountability and the expectation set that if you don't do these things, you're gone. Not that we're just firing people left and right, but when we take them on in our interview process, we truly try to talk them out of joining. You're not going to have the grit. You're not going to have the grind. You're not going to have the discipline. 99% of agents are not going to be comfortable here, because when you tell us you are going to do something, we expect you to do it. And in order to earn your way to our lead opportunities, in order for you to get what it is that we provide, you got to prove to us that you've earned it. And it's just, we see these teams taking it with such a different approach of, well, let's just hire a bunch of them and pray to God some of them are going to be successful. And I just think it's a really irresponsible way to launch people into the business.
Right. No, I don't disagree with you. And to be honest, the other thing that's irresponsible, which I found myself doing over the years, you got to be willing to let some people go if they're not going to fit. Because I'm going to tell you because what could happen is you keep them one extra day, you could be keeping them from their job opportunity that they could have had. Okay. So it's irresponsible to just let people hang on. Even though your cost may be anything, trust me, there's an emotional cost, there's a bandwidth cost, there's a cost there. And that's a hard thing to do. But the bottom line is, and everybody's got their different model. I mean, the bottom line is, if in my world, if you are not talking to enough people, and we can put dial metrics, we can take the metrics all the way back to however you want to. If you are not having conversations, thus getting appointments with enough people, this ain't going to work for you, and it ain't going to work for me.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you're making 400, 500 dials a week, talking to 50 people a week, and you're not able to get an appointment, and we've walked you through it, we've listened to your calls, we've done all this stuff, there's just a disconnect that ain't going to happen. It just ain't meant to be. Maybe it'll be a fit over here, but for us, it ain't working.
Yeah.
But what you just said, to be real.
Yeah. Well, what you just said too, it's and you see people, and we always tell, we see it. It's like, let's say you've never played golf a day in your life, and you have two options. You can either go watch 1,000 hours and watch YouTube videos of Tiger Woods golfing, or you can get an hour of Tiger standing there with you, watching your swing, telling you how to move your hips, telling you how to hold your shoulders. I'm not a golfer, so you'll hear me butcher this. But it's like, would you rather have the 1,000 hours where you watch, or would you rather have the ability to actually be adjusted and be taught? And it's like, when my daughter turned 16 and she drives a vehicle, you can bet your ass I'm going to be standing there with her, watching her put her foot on the brake, watching her start it, watching her. We got to make sure that they're doing it the correct way. And there's all these teams who are just like, here's what you do, now go do it. And they're skipping the most important step. And it's, okay, you're going to watch me. I'm going to watch you to make you prove and learn that you know how to do this. And then you are going to go do. But we can't skip that step. I'm not going to throw the keys to my daughter and say, good luck, honey. Hopefully you make it home. We're going to make sure that she knows how to drive that vehicle, and she knows how to get the performance and the safety out of it.
Right.
There is a certain level of having put your own pride and ego aside in actually genuinely caring not only for your leads, but for your agents, in order to see them succeed, with the fear and concern that, maybe they'll leave someday, right? And you invested all this time and all this stuff, but like, what's the real benefit to you as a person, not just your paycheck, to them as people, and to the residual cultural effect that you create when you're able to say, like, I really do care about you and your success. If you say you're going to do it, well, I'm going to do my part too. I'm going to invest in you to see you succeed. And we'll see where this goes. Right. I think that's it takes a certain crucifying of your ego, but if you can do it, I think that the benefits can go beyond your short-term paycheck.
The good thing about this shifting market is the market's going to discipline a lot of those egos.
Yeah.
It does have a way of doing that, doesn't it?
It does. It's got a way of humbling you.
Well, it's the natural progress, and it's happened numerous times. It'll happen again. I think this one's going to be different. I mean, they're all different, but I think, unfortunately, this one isn't just going to be the housing industry. It's going to be every industry for a while. So,
yeah.
Well, guys, we're coming up on our just closing, and I think it's about time to land the plane. I'd be curious if there's one thing for anybody who watches now or in the future that you would want to leave them with, something that was said by you, by somebody else, or was unsaid. What would you say? Buddy, I'll start with you.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is it's been nice hearing you, Colton, because I've seen your name. Can I ask you a quick question, Colton, real quick?
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know, I might have it wrong. Did you used to work with a guy, the Fearless Agent or something like that? Coach Bob something?
No.
Okay. Anyway, I was just curious because I remember a Colton. Anyway, doesn't matter. I think the biggest refreshing thing for me, Colton, is having you on here talking about the basics, because my people are so tired of hearing me say it. And, I mean, and it's just, but there's just no shortcutting it, because there's no technology going to fix what we're going to have to go through. And that's great, because the moment that technology can do it, we're all out of a business.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%.
What about you, Colton?
And likewise, it's nice when it's you can't be a prophet in your own land. So it's funny because when you do talk to your team, it's like, yeah. Then you hear somebody else say it, and they're like, "What?" I get so mad. They'll be watching it, and they'll do the, and they'll start writing it down. I'm like, "You get that pen out of your hand. I've said that 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's on the wall.
Yeah, it's right here. You signed it. Look." But it's just right now the most important thing. Like I'm listening to role plays, and I'm listening to a bunch of teams. It's like, just focus on the one thing that's going to help them actually gain traction. And right now it's being able to navigate their way through the really challenging conversations of I'm scared, interest rates, affordability, the market, prices. Those are the conversations that we need to be able to have, and we need to be practicing it with each other and not on our clients. We've heard that a million times. That's not an original thought. But it's like we're doing it every single day without fail. We role play for 30 minutes, and it is one conversation in the most difficult of ways. And when we go help coach people now, when we get asked to go in there, you listen to the role plays, and it's like, oh, I'm terrified of the market. Well, and they give some BS objection handler, and in the objector says, oh, okay, sure, that makes sense. Yeah, I'd love to go ahead and meet you tomorrow at 2. And it's like, no, that's not what the conversation is going to go like. So why the hell are we practicing that way? So I want through and through every perfect objection handler, I want the objector to say no to the very end, and then making sure that they can attach themselves to a future outcome of providing value from now until that person's ready. And it's just go through those repetitions, practice it like crazy, take it seriously, and don't be a pushover during the objections.
I would say, as a train passes by, the value and the benefit of authenticity, authentically caring for the people around you, the people you're interacting with from a real estate perspective, with your leads, your agents, from a life perspective, your family, your friends, and the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Authenticity is the way to go.
Absolutely.
And
all right, guys. Well, thanks so much.
Vulnerable.
What? Go ahead, buddy.
Vulnerable and humble. This is not the time to show off the world, all that you've done and all this, because like you said, Colton, the consumer's going through rough times. Our agents are worried. Okay. Yeah. Because they had, what it's like. This changed.
Yeah.
And you've got to be there with them and walk through it and face the worst thing. The most fearful thing there is the unknown. Walk them through the path and go through around the corners with them is what I'm saying.
Yeah. 100%. I'm just curious now now that the market shifted, and my favorite post was just sold with 42 offers and $200,000 over ask price. Like, all right, superhero, now that you got to put your cape away, now what?
Oh, Colton, I'm going to tell you now what, because, hey, Colton, let me tell you what's coming. I can tell you now what. Real estate commission complaints in North Carolina is already, Colton, because here's the conversation. Well, Mr. Agent, there were 20 other offers on this, and you convinced me to pay $50,000 more to buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's the market and all those things, but you still got to deal with it. Those are coming. I remember those in 07. Those are coming because the consumer is not going to take responsibility for decisions they made. So just be ready. That's coming.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go a slightly different direction to say those social media posts aren't going to age well. So yeah,
no. I know they're not, because the consumer that is wanting to sell their house and now it's not as easy to sell. Let's just say it that way. They got a screenshot of that Facebook, and they're going to go in and they're going to send that in. They're like, well, look, he was bragging about how he got to pay more money. Like, they forget all the content around it.
Yeah. Well, I know we could keep going, but
no, I'm done. I'm done off myself.
Okay, listen, let's just go ahead and do this. Colton, let's have you on again sometime. Gosh, we didn't even get to go into the details.
How can people get up with Colton? Because I've heard a lot of Colton, and I know that he's building a pretty impressive EXP organization. So if somebody's looking at that model, you don't need to be in your backwoods necessarily. Sometimes it's better to be with somebody else. Colton, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about coaching or your organization?
Yeah, of course. So we're an open book. I've got people on Marco Polo because Robert, he gets to see us on there. My coach got me onto that. I thoroughly just enjoy being able to help people now. I had enough people do it for me, and it's the only reason where I'm at. So whether you're joining EXP or you're not, we're happy to help. You can call me. Cell phone's 949-424-9975. Look me up on Instagram. We're on there all the time. So happy to connect anytime. And guys, thank you for having me on there. Really appreciate it. Buddy, I've heard your name over and over and over. So it's cool to connect with you on here.
All right, cool. I'm going to shut the live down now.
All right, guys. Okay. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.